Video, I'm planning to cover the start view controller, login view controller, sign up view controller, and then we see how it goes. If we have enough time, if the video doesn't get too long, we also cover the view controller. So as I mentioned in the previous video, we have when the user installs the app for the first time, he will be prompted with the start view controller. So what we have inside here? Well, again, it's stuck again. Sorry for that. Okay, so we import the video kit, the user interface kit, and the Firebase authentication. Okay, so the first thing is we initialize the video player, just because we are showing a video in that page. We get the two button outlets, which are the sign up and the login button, and then we have view disappear. So when the app is launched, basically we enter inside this function, which is the view disappear, so when the view actually is prompted to the user. So what do we do here? So we check if the user has already logged in, and I'm doing this here because I'm actually checking. So if the user has already logged in, we send him directly to the home view controller, so which is the home view controller where we have all the cards, as I've explained before, where we show the task to be completed to the user. However, if the user has not been authenticated, so we fall inside this part of the if here, we show the video and we stylize the buttons. So very, very simple. So here we use the utilities. So you can just have a look here inside the utilities, how we stylize the button. So here we select the frame, background color, border, and so of the text. Then we have the button here. So we just give a color to the button and a corner radius. Basically, that's all for that function. So start view controller, so we stylize the primary button, the secondary button, we set up the video, and that's it. So the user will then click either on the sign up button or will either click on the login button. Okay, so when the user clicks on the login button, will be redirected to the login view. And when the user clicks on the sign up button, will be redirected on the sign up view. So let me actually show you that. I was actually looking here because I couldn't find the action. So there is no, sorry for that, there is no connection here. So there is no action that redirects you to that view. And I think that is because if you go inside here, main storyboard, and we go in to the start view controller, and yes, so we can see this show segue sign up view controller. So unfortunately, it's a bit of a mess because you can do things programmatically, you can do things inside here in the main storyboard. I don't like this fact, but in this case, so when we click on this button, we are going to be redirected to this view, and you can actually see this action inside here. Sometimes in the code, you will find a different approach. So basically, when a user taps on a button, then you will actually see the function written inside the view controller. Anyway, so I think I've explained that. So we have the sign up view. The sign up view is also very simple. So we import all the button outlets here and the text input field. We stylize them. So we provide a style, which I was actually showing you before. So in the utilities here, we just apply a style. Just have a look if you are interested about that. And let's just go back here. So we have to validate the fields. So that's extremely important that the user doesn't leave any empty fields, or for instance, the email is properly formatted or the password is properly formatted. So again, in the utilities, I've written like functions which clean and check that the password is correct. Okay. I will just, this is just a regular expression. So I'm using a regular expression for the email, and I'm using a regular expression for the password. So we're sign up. Okay, so once we have validated all the fields, we actually go in the sign up tab. So this is what actually I was just telling you a second ago. So here there is actually a function. So as you can see, when the sign up button is tapped, there is a function written here. In this case, what do? We validate all the fields. So the user types in the text field name, email, and so forth. We could even add more fields over there. There is no problem. So we first validated that all the user entry are correct. If there is an error, we show an error, and as you can see here, we have added a label inside here, which is not going to be visible normally, so the alpha is going to be set to 0, but if the error occurs, then eventually we just show the error, and so we show the error message. Alternatively, if there is no error, we grab the first name, last name, email, and password, we remove white spaces and new lines, and then we do the authentication with the Google Firebase. So we create a user first. If there is no error, and if there is an error, we just show an error message. If there is no error, we create the user first into the Firestore console, and then we actually add an additional document in another database, in another table, which is called users, as you can see here, and we add first name, last name, and user ID. So basically, in the console, which probably I will just show you later in another video, we will have two or more databases. One which just handles the authentication, which has basically an email and a user ID field. The second table that we will have is actually the users table, which we store additional information about the user, such as first name, last name, and user ID. Okay? So here there is a little bit of an error, I mean, something that could be improved, let's say, because if you create the user and there are no errors, we go ahead, we try to create, we try to add the first name and last name to the users table. And if this throws an error, we are actually printing in the console, and we are actually adding an error label over there. The problem is that then we're going to be transitioning directly to the home page. So the user is not really aware that his information, first name and last name, haven't been stored into the Firebase database. So that could be a little bit of an issue, but at least we are 100% sure that the user was created. So if the user eventually was created, then the researcher just need to check that the first name and last name were saved in the users table. I hope everything was clear. And then we transition to the home. So we'll keep the home view for another, home view controller for another video, but we just cover in this one the login view controller, which is very similar to the sign up view controller. So in this case, which if the user has click from the start view controller, I click on login. In this case, we are only asking for email and password because we don't need the name and surname. So we get the IO button outlets, we set up the element, again we stylized a bit of the text and the primary button, and then again here we have a function when the button is tapped. So we first validate all the fields, make sure that everything is fine as we did before, we grab the email, we grab the password, and then we use the Firebase authentication. So in this case, instead of creating a new user, we actually sign in. So we call authentication out sign in with email. So in this app so far we are only signing up users with email and password. So if you have success, everything is fine, we transition to the home view controller. If there is an error in the error label at the bottom, we actually just showed what is the problem. So we just say could not sign in. Actually, we are not showing the error because the error we're just printing in the console. Maybe again this could be changed, because we are not informing exactly what was the error, so we are not really letting the user know what is exactly the error. but we are just telling him that he could not sign in, or either incorrect user or password. Technically, it could be an issue even with the network, so it really depends on what we want to show to the user. So this is the function that validates the fields. It should be self-explanatory, and this is the function that shows the error message. Again, as I told you before, the alpha of the error label is default set to 0, and then when we want to show the error label, we actually set it to 1. Set it to 1, and this is the function that transitions the view to the home view controller. Okay, so next video we are going to look at the home view controller, which is a little bit more complex.